Snowball's run of Lena's Inception, perfect ending, blind seated. Let's go, Maple.
Okie dokie. Hello everyone, my name is Maple, and this is Lenna's Inception, perfect ending, blind seated. Lenna's Inception is a very, very cool indie roguelike that's kind of like, pulls inspiration from the older sort of top-down Legend of Zelda games, but it's got a very heavy randomizer element. Perfect ending is sort of like the good ending. We're going to be fighting all the bosses, doing a bunch of the side quests to get special items. Since this is blind seeded, I have no prior knowledge as to what is going to be going down on this seed. There will be some things that I will know placement, because there's a small handful of things that aren't randomized, but like the vast majority, like 90-95% of the game's randomized every time, so this is going to be a fun little experience. Gonna give a quick countdown and then we are going to be off. So 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. Interesting boss order. So you can actually tell the order of the bosses that will show up in the dungeons from that first screen, because where each of the children in the school are seated corresponds to which dungeon number specific bosses will show up. And each boss's dungeon has a specific item that you end up using to defeat said boss, and also traverse the overworld to the next dungeon. Dungeons 1 and Dungeons 8, or Dungeon 1 and Dungeon 8 always will have the same boss and items. What in the world? D1's normally not this far away. This is interesting. So for the first dungeon, we'll be picking up the sword, as well as a telephone and the power of fortitude. I'm not going to spoil what the Dungeon 8 item is, because it is super cool, incredibly silly, and makes backtracking through the game later in the run very, very handy. Now I need to not goof up this little puzzle, because I am very prone to doing that. So this is Lance, he's the hero kid. We're taking him to Dungeon 1 to teach him how to be the hero. Except a little slight complication. That's 8 fridge that just fell from the ceiling. They'll be seen a lot throughout the run. 8 fridge will be showing up in every single dungeon's special item room. Now I need to grab some coins. Let's go with 15. I need 20, but sometimes money bags will drop. So like that. Grab that, and I'll also pick up this 100 bill over here, because money is a very powerful resource. We're going to need, throughout the run, a grand total of 1,000 coins, because of a side quest involving the bank. This is Paige. She's the librarian. She's going to program into our map on our telephone the locations of Dungeons 3, 4, and 2, 3, and 4. But before heading to Dungeon 2, I'm going to go up here, over, and down to Andres the Bear. To purchase a tunic. Camouflage, that's utterly useless, that's fine. Sometimes Andres will be very, very kind and sell you something like a speed or a strength tunic. And those are super, super good for the speed run. Camouflage, the one downside to it is it makes you kind of invisible, and enemies that appear from the floor, like those slimes, as well as the pink ones, which are marshmallows, they don't exactly show up as easily, because sort of like they detect Lenna from a closer distance, and sometimes there are screens in dungeons where like a door will be locked, behind defeating all of the enemies, and sometimes it'll be like, well, why is nothing spawning? Also, I need to be a little bit careful here because I'm on half a heart and these skeletons are on fire. Every item room in a dungeon, there will be some enemies that drop that are differently colored or on fire. These enemies will have double the amount of health that they normally do, as well as some random. Well, I say random. It's dependent on what color the enemy is. Sort of like traits. So like the ones that are on fire are pretty obviously on fire. If you touch them, then you catch on fire, and that's not good. Green ones will periodically heal, which is super annoying. Brown ones explode every couple of seconds, which is very dangerous to deal with because explosions deal a massive amount of damage. I'm checking these graves also because one thing that I forgot to mention is Paige wants us to be on the lookout for overdue library books. And it just so happens that grave robbing in this game, for some reason, is one of the most efficient ways to go about finding the overdue library books. There are 16 books in total on every seed. 4 of them will be always in fixed locations. So I need to, realistically speaking, just find 8, which I am having no luck with. That is fine, because at least part of the west side is a cemetery, and as mentioned, that's like the best biome you can have for finding books, so that's good. Let's get rid of these skeletons. If I'm remembering the boss order correctly, the item for this dungeon should be the bow, which is nice because in dungeons 1, 2, and 3, the boss will be a one-phase fight. However, in dungeons 4 through 8, they will be two-phase fights, and the unfortunately, this seed does not have a one-phase fight against the swim dungeon boss, which is unfortunate because that boss has the longest two-phase fight in the game. However, the boss of the bow dungeon is like the second longest of the ones that can be randomized. And also, in my opinion, that fight is the scariest of the ones that actually gets played out. What I mean by that is something else about Dungeons 4 through 8. I'll be on lookout for secret rooms that dwell on the outside of the dungeon's normal layout. Because one of those 5 secret rooms will have a special item that I'll be able to use only one time. I get one shot with it, and that's it, so I better not miss. It will one-shot any enemy it hits in the game. That includes the final boss. Well, one of the final... any of the final bosses. There are 3 final bosses. But one of the final bosses in particular is a very scary 4-phase fight that takes a while because it's a 4-phase fight. And it's got some of the best music in the game. Like, this game's OST is full throttle all the time. However, you know, having awesome music is not enough to make me opt out a 2 minutes of time save against the scariest fight in the game. But the bow dungeon, of the like 8 like normal bosses, or dungeon bosses, I should say. Seeing a one-phase fight for the bow, I'm pretty happy about that. Also, okay, nice. Office and Thirsty Person. Those are 2 side quest NPCs that I will need. You may notice I have been going into a dungeon, grabbing the dungeon item, and then leaving immediately. There are a few reasons for this. One is the Dungeon 8 item makes backtracking so fast, comparatively speaking, that it's actually faster regardless to, go through the game, get the Dungeon 8 item, and then go back, because it's just significantly faster to get into the boss rooms and thus fight the bosses. On top of that, because this is perfect ending, I'm going to need a set of 8 special items that will be used to actually spare the bosses. Because after exiting Dungeon 4, we got a phone call from the prince asking for help because the chairman has sent his skeletons to pretty much take over the palace and imprison him. So he gave us his power of compassion, which will be used to spare bosses. Let's warp back to the bridge. That was the traveling merchant there. One of the side quest NPCs that we need to find. First time you meet him, he gives you a random tunic. And this time he gave me a healing tunic, which definitely not my first choice. Again, strength and speed are like the go-tos. However, I definitely appreciate healing tunic. Like, healing, defense, like, strength and speed I always consider as, like, tier 1 tunics, for, like, the ones that I want to get. And then, like, in tier 2, it's, like, healing, blast protection, fire resistance, and defense. So I will gladly take a healing tunic. That's going to definitely make some areas later in the run slightly less stressful. I don't appreciate this Dungeon 5 layout. I'm having to go pretty far into the dungeon. Also, these snails, you might notice, are leaving trails behind them. That's poison. If I walk over the trail, I will be poisoned and periodically lose HP. Some snails will... Okay, I think I know where the secret room is. Some snails will be trailing a different color behind them, and that's just a random effect. Don't know what it is, don't want to find out, because some of them are kind of funny, and I just dashed straight into the water. Go me. There we go. That big enemy there was a giant version of a Lizrobe. They're actually called Pyromelians, which is, if I'm remembering correctly, also the name of a cassette beast. Cassette Beasts is Bitten Studios' other game. And there is a bit of sort of overlap with, like, characters and monster design between the two and whatnot. It's super cool. What in the world? Let's try going this way. Okay, there we go. This layout looks a little freaky. Alright, Dungeon 6. It's gonna be either jump or bombs. Like, I normally don't pay too much attention, on the first screen of the run to, like, what dungeons, like, 6 and 7 have, because I'm usually more interested in 2, 3, and 4, since those are the west side, and, I like to find out, alright, which bosses, do I have 1 phase fights of, and then process of elimination, which fights do I have 2 phases with, and that's unfortunate. I'm going to need a blue key. Now that we're starting to get into the later dungeons, chances are that, item rooms are going to be locked behind finding keys. Dungeon 7 and 8 are especially mean sometimes on that front. Alright. Cool little trick. If you have the strength amulet, you can actually pick up snails and just throw them. If there is a snail as the final enemy in a room, you can pick it up, and if there's an item that's going to drop or a door that's going to open, that will immediately happen. And then if you throw the snail into the wall, it'll instantly one-shot that snail. You know what? I kind of actually want to see if this is a map, and of course it's not. So now I'm on critical health. I have 0 hearts remaining. If I get hit one more time, then I am going to die. If I survive long enough, then I am going to regain, I think it's half heart. That's scary. This is a brown version of a gray crab. Gray crabs just dodge stuff really easily, and unfortunately I've not found the woodcutter. The woodcutter is an NPC who will give me an axe that I will need in order to collect one of the items to spare one of the bosses. However, one little thing about the axe is it deals, I think it's 1.5 times damage, on top of, gray crabs cannot dodge it. The trade-off is the hitbox is kind of small, but it's not really that big of a trade-off when dealing with gray crabs. Alright, notebook there. Just wanted to check. Alright, let's see. I can't remember, did I already find the screen? Oh, that's not good. So, forest dungeons, time to explain. You're not guaranteed to have, a forest dungeon on a scene. This is a really good layout, though. If you do have a forest dungeon, what? Then you will only have 1. We don't like forest dungeons. Because... I'll take this opportunity to explain a little bit about the Dungeon 8 special item a little bit earlier than I normally do. So the Dungeon 8 item is going to be a pair of glasses that give the player the ability to screen wrap. So there's going to be a lot of things that are going to happen once I get the glasses that will look like glitches, will look unintended. There is only one actual glitch in the game, and it is during the Goldilocks and Three Bears side quest. So I'll explain that a little bit once we get there. The reason why you don't want to see a forest dungeon late, like D4 onward, honestly D3 onward, because Dungeon 3 layouts can be difficult to traverse. When you screen wrap, you can go to rooms that are, like, not really on the map. So, in dungeons, so those are just voids. In forest dungeons, it's not really a void, because you're in a forest. You know, there are a lot of trees in the forest. And these trees are complete with collision. You cannot walk through them, so you can't really change which direction you're screen wrapping, which can be very, very difficult to manage. And also that makes finding these secret room much harder than normal. So fingers crossed, hopefully the item I need won't be in Dungeon 7. That will be the last dungeon of the two-phase fights / secret room dungeons that I'll be backtracking to. But this is Professor Maxwell. He wound up in his basement when his assistant turned on him and used his earthquake machine against him. I mean, he jumped over a locked door. He probably could have gotten out on his own, but oh well. But he tells us that Delvin was his assistant. Delvin was the second guy on the bridge all the way back before Dungeon 5. So Delvin's a bad guy, so we're gonna need to stop him. And to do that, we're gonna need the glasses. Okay, that's not at all what I was expecting. Dungeon, you may have noticed with Dungeon 4, you know what, I'm gonna, if I can't get some bombs from these, because there's going to be a lot of gray crabs. Gray snails always explode when you hit them. If they're like curled up in their shells, they're a little bit frightening to deal with. Okay, so the game wants me to go back the way I came. That's fine. The way this dungeon looks with all the glitchy tiles and whatnot, that's intended. If I end up finding a tile on a wall that it looks normal, that is going to mean that the secret room is behind that tile on the wall. So I'm gonna be keeping my eyes peeled for that. Okay or not. This is very unusual. Usually you have to do quite a bit of navigating through the dungeon to find the item room. This is very handy. Glasses, nope, glasses. Let's put lighter there. Alright, let's do some looking for the secret room real quick. Okay, or we can just warp right into the room with Arcade and Jolhadasai, a vampire magician. We don't want to be here because we don't want to fight her, because we don't want to kill her, we want to spare her. This might end up being a rare instance of D8 looking for the item room, coming back later. Let's see here. Let's go down. Not there. So, to me, this is telling me it's going to be either... No, let's check. Over here. And if that's a no-go... Okay, then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to go back over here, wrap, and go up. There we go. Right, that's not the item we need. That's good knowledge. So now what for the backtrack to Dungeon 8, it is going to be just going to fight the boss, and I accidentally walked back into the dungeon. That's not exactly what we want to do. Alright, now I need to go to the palace. And not walk into the sea while trying to do that. The palace is one of the few areas in the game where the layout will always be the same. And not only is everything layout-wise, or like, not layout-wise, movement-wise that you're going to see intended, it is required. Alright, here's the strange cave. That's good. Grab that warp point. I'm gonna need to go back and talk to that guy soon, but not yet. I need to find the potion and tunic shop run by Potter and Tunley, because they are going to be like, yo, our sister is supposed to be helping us with the shop, but she's vanished. Can you help us find her? And then we talked to the strange cave guy, and he's like, oh yeah, I know who that is. Here's her phone number, yada yada yada. Also, that's a strength tunic from the good old palace. A little unfortunate that I couldn't get that earlier, because strength tunic is the strongest tunic type in the game. You deal double damage with it to everything that's like not a boss. So that would have been nice for all of the item rooms in dungeons. However, it is still going to be incredibly useful for when we go back to the strange cave, because the strange cave is sort of like a battle arena that's a bunch of waves, and we have to beat up a bunch of enemies. So having the strength tunic for that is going to speed it up exponentially, so that's still good to have now. The reason why I'm going through the palace now is so that way I can screen wrap up here, grab the green key, open up this door, and now, after doing all of the boss fights, I'll be able to just hop into the sort of like the final boss rush. But now I just really need to find a handful of NPC characters and a whole lot of books, which is a little bit scary. So while I do that, if there are any messages from the host, now is a terrific time.
First, I just want to say how much I love that this seed is gender, so every time you go in and out of something, it's like, gender this. That's very good.
Hell yeah.
What I do want to say is, it is next run that we have Resident Evil 4 coming up for separate ways with the Ada Wong costume poll. So maybe you want to see instead the Resident Evil 2 remake dress instead of the regular one. That's still something you gotta decide. And on top of that, if you are selecting both your poll and your incentive, so you go to the Sonic Generations, if we make that Sonic Generations run, we're less than $10 away from our Kaizo mode incentive for Mario Odyssey, so let's go for it.
Alright, having a little bit of a book detour here.
This has been very fascinating so far, just how you're going through everything, and I think I understand the run at this point, why you've been skipping everything and how everything is randomized, but it's still very wild to watch.
It's a very fascinating run. It's very funny to me. My big sis is like the world record holder in this game, and she had to pester me so many times to get me to give the game a try, and then I tried it once and I absolutely fell in love with it, and now I'm like, I want to play it more. Alright, hang on. Who do I still need? I think I still need Naked Bear, Zoologist, and Potter and Tunley. So we got the Woodcutter. The Woodcutter was like, yo, find a secret for me, because I'm bad at it. So we find a secret for him, and he gives us a glitch log. I can actually go back... Okay, there's the Naked Bear. I can actually go back and fight Hadasaya anytime I want, which I might do, just because having her out of the way for the boss rush just makes me a lot less stressed. Alright, here's Potter and Tunley. So I should probably warp back to the Strange Cave momentarily. How many books do I have again? 7? Okay, and I got the one from Maxwell's bookshelf, so that's one of the ones that's in a fixed spot every time. There's a Zoologist. Who do I still need? Wait, is that everyone? I think that might actually be everyone on this side of the island. Let me think. Traveling Merchant, Naked Bear, Zoologist, Potter Tunley, Strange Cave, Woodcutter. I think that is everyone. Pop over here. Talk to that dingus twice. I am going to check a couple screens above where I am right now, because my book senses are tingling, and there we go. This is a game that your instincts about where items might be are not going to always be kind to you, but it's still important to listen to them every once in a while. Alright. Now, office, thirsty person. Alright, cool. That is, did we find the 3 bears? I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. Okay, cool. So, I need to find, to my knowledge, one more book. There we go, that's good. And now I am going to need to also find 2 more NPCs, Creepy Jack and the 3 Bears Cottage. But first I'm going to pop back into the library, screen wrap up here. Page is going to be like, wow, you found so many books, that's awesome. Can I come with you to help you find some more? So we say yes. Call Tressa. Tressa's like, can't talk right now because the librarian might get mad at me again. Then we talk to Paige, and she's like, she's going to the bank. So she's gonna... So stuff's gonna happen at the bank. The bank is where we got into Dungeon 4, by the way. I kind of just sort of skipped over that fact. This is kind of awkward. Let's try this. Oh, sweet. I was not actually expecting that to be worth it, but here's Creepy Jack. He's going to give us a forged property deed, which we need in order to satisfy a business skeleton who's going to give me a briefcase that we're going to then give the traveling merchant in return for his shirt, which we're then going to give to the Naked Bear because the bear wants some clothes. Alright. Now, 3 Bears Cottage is all we need. And then it's pretty much go mode, unless I've forgotten anything on the east side, which is entirely possible. There's a lot in Perfect Ending that you have to keep track of. And there's 3 bears. Alright, so this is going to be the one instance of an actual glitch. Like unintended gameplay. Paige, please stop calling me on the phone. Over and over. Good grief. Always happens like that. Alright, so, screen wrap out of bounds. Leave the screen twice. What this is going to do is this is going to spawn in 2 extra copies of Goldilocks. This is unintended. So, this is the game's resident hide-and-seek minigame. But there are 3 screens that Goldilocks is going to leave. However, the game does not check for what screens Goldilocks has left. The game checks for how many screens a Goldilocks has left. Meaning, if there are 3 Goldilockses and they all leave the first screen, that counts as Goldilocks leaving 3 screens. So we're able to just skip the entire thing. That is the wrong key because my hand was off-center a little bit. Alright, now we're going to rob the bank. I need 3 more 100 bills. I'm curious about this tunic. Fire resistance. Wow, this seed has some actually really good tunics. Healing, then strength, and then fire resistance is super strong. So now we're going to get now we're going to deposit 1,000 coins, and then we are going to withdraw 999. And then we're going to try to withdraw that last one, and he's gonna be like, you can't do that because you can't withdraw more than good old 999. So here's a little note about it. That is another one of the items that we are going to need to give to boss. Now we're going to buy a book and a handful of healing potions. Andres will always have one of the books. Also, the first potion that he sells will always be a healing potion. Alright, now that we've got 12... wait, where was the traveling merchant showing up next? Now that we have 12, books, Paige is like, yo, let's go slay 10 marshmallows, so that way we have marshmallows, and then we can do something really cool. So... Alright. I hate gray crabs. They are so annoying to deal with. Because they are very pushy. Where was the naked bear? Right above top secret. Let's go up here. Let's give him the shirt. He's gonna give us Bear Claw. The zoologist was... I think I found her somewhere. Yeah, there. Cool, cool, cool. This has actually been a very solid seed for, like, finding, side quest characters. Which has been very nice. There are times where... Wait, I just completely missed her. Oh yeah, there she is. There are times where legitimately I've had to go across every single tile on both sides of the island to end up finding everyone that I need. Alright, so now let's find the traveling merchant in the other spot, so that way we find him 4 times and he gives us a fancy book. Alright, speaking of the fancy book. Okay, I did not happen to see what the status of it was, but did we hit the campfire cutscene incentive by any chance?
We sure did.
Alright, sweet. So that's coming up real soon. So it's very important in perfect ending runs to have the whole collect the 10 marshmallows from Paige before doing the strange cave, because the second wave is a marshmallow wave, and anytime you leave the strange cave, it resets back to wave 1. So you can just very easily get 10 marshmallows, and it's super convenient. You don't have to go out of your way for anything. So it's pretty much just fighting wave after wave of enemy, flipping on the axe because it deals more damage. I'll have healing potions equipped in case things get dicey. So if there are any host messages, now is another really good time.
I will say I'm still looking to see for more competition going on with the dress for Ada in Resident Evil 4. Let's try to spice that up. I'm kind of curious to see the Resident Evil 4 original dress myself.
Alright,
I thought I saw earlier that Paige threw a book, but she hasn't been doing anything lately. Did I just make that up in my brain?
No, that's her weapon of choice.
Okay.
She does get a little bit anxious at times, so she won't attack as frequently. But yes, she does throw books at her enemies.
She is quite relatable.
Also, she is the librarian. She's gotta go with what she's comfy with. Alright, I'm going to actually flip off of the strength tunic to fire resistance, because the Liz robes just constantly breathe fire, and fire damage stacks up very quickly. So this is the final wave, so I need to shift out of autopilot mode, because I'm not mashing through the cutscene this time. I made sure to not skip the cutscene in a practice run just to sort of, like, flip out of it a bit. So there we go. Here we go. A campfire? Yes, I thought it would be nice to take a rest. You do remember to take breaks from your adventuring, don't you? Paige is saying stay hydrated and make sure to stretch, everyone. Skewer one of those marshmallows on your sword. Put it in the fire. It's burning. Give it a moment. Okay, now eat it. What? Just try it. I'm not even gonna try to make that sound. It's good, right? Too sweet. There's something else, but I'm not very good at putting my feelings into words. So I've put my feelings into this. I want you to have it. You've earned the affections of a certain librarian. Now you're being too sweet. As Lenna and Paige sit by the campfire, Paige reads to Lenna a play she has been writing. The play is terrible, but afterwards, for the first time in a long while, Lenna sleeps well.
Let's go, lesbians.
Let's go, lesbians. Alright, let's see. Alright, good. Got 7 of the 8 items. That means... you know what, let's flip back to healing, actually, because strength... yeah. I will flip back to strength 1. And that is going to be when we get back to the palace, but that's not really important right now. Wait. I forgot to do something. I got the phone number for Tressa's mom and then never called her. So now there's Tressa. She's gonna give us I think it's a patent that she gives us. Anyway, that's not really important. What is important is... oh, okay, that's water. Boss rush time. So, I'm going to real quick say this. Minor flashing lights warning. The bosses, when you damage them, do flicker a little bit. So just keep that in mind. It's not going to be a whole screen thing, but it is going to be, like, enough of the screen that I want people to be aware of it. So, this is Archangel Hadesiah, Vampire Magician. This is one of the longest fights in the run. Most of the time, it's like 3 hits to get to the second phase of a fight. With Hadasaya, it's only 2 hits. However, it's a very long sort of auto-scrollery fight until she's vulnerable each time, which is kind of annoying. Her second phase is incredibly fast, though. Also, Hadasaya will always be a 2-phase fight, as she is always the boss of the 8th dungeon. So I have the glasses constantly turned on. That is because with certain bosses, it will actually speed up their attacks and animations. The biggest example of this going to be Tentaluchis. And then also it just has sort of become a muscle memory thing, so I just do it for all the bosses. Except for like the final bosses and whatnot. I wish that I was more comfortable with using it against the chairman, because I think it actually does save a chunk of time against him, but that fight's stressful enough, because it's a time. So now we're in the second phase. Hadasaya is going to yell every time we hit her and drop just a rainstorm of bats from the ceiling. But after 2 hits, we are able to use the Prince's Power of Compassion to tell her that we don't need to fight like this. Open the map at a specific point after picking up that orb to skip a cutscene. And we would have found out from that cutscene that actually Lenna is the mother of the Archangels. She is in this human form because Delvin used his invention 8 Fridge to sort of effectively rewrite reality. Alright, there's the buoy. That's not... Unfortunately, we cannot chuck a buoy at Delvin to one-shot him. Alright, here we go. Archangel Catseal, Murder Tabby. This is going to be, the second phase, an example of things just happening ever so slightly faster with the glasses constantly, equipped. Also, any old school gamers might be a bit familiar with the, order, or like the specific way we have to hit Catseal in phase 2. You'll understand when we get there. Catseal is actually a mildly scary fight. I just completely mistimed all of my jumps over the monitor attack. Because during phase 2, she will drop bats from the ceiling, much like Hadasaya. However, if... I did not think that was going to actually hit the joystick. That's unfortunate. Alright, I'm turning the glasses off, actually, because it drops the bats at a drastically faster speed. Get out of here, please. I'm trying to work. There we go. Alright, now I can turn them back on. Left. Right. Maybe if the sword will happen. Left, and then Power of Compassion. Okay.
That's not usually in the Konami code.
Don't worry about it. Alright, next up's going to be dungeon number 5. This one was... Oh, this was Swim. Get ready for... Get ready for me to accidentally walk out the door because my fingers were slightly, off center. So I'm going to actually fight the boss first because she's directly up from the start. Then I'm going to warp back to the start, warp past the boss room so that way we don't see this animation over and over again. And then look for the item room there. So this is Archangel Sand Dolphin, what is it, like, Serpentine Dolphin or something like that? Serpentine Dolphin, I don't actually remember her title, and I was yapping. Her first phase is pretty long. Her second phase is a very long bullet hell auto-scroller. The one nice thing about 2-phase Sand Dolphin is it is the one time when we actually get to, like, properly hear the phase 2 music, especially since Krabatin is going to be a 1-phase fight in this run. With 2-phase Krabatin, we usually end up getting the spare right before the kick-ass guitar kicks in. However, Sand Dolphin's long enough that we get to that guitar, and I really, really, really like it. But yeah, pretty much she just unleashes ring after ring of deadly starfish that we have to dive under the water to evade. And then platforms will pop up. You can tell how many hits you are away from, like, when it'll be last hit by the number of orbs in between each, like, raindrop-shaped thing on her. So now there's one left, so now I need to just keep my finger away from the sword button at all costs, because there is a brief window that you can warp out of the boss room if you accidentally get the hit to kill a boss. And that'll, like, sort of respawn the boss. However, let's be real, we really don't want to fight that boss twice, because that is a very long fight. So now, let's do some looking around for an item. Because I promise you, I do not want anything to do with the final boss. Well, the final boss that I'd be skipping. Because he kinda means business. Alright, let's go along the bottom. And then... oh, please don't be in the forest. There's one last chance, and that's Dungeon 4, and I just went to Dungeon 1, so you know what, we're doing Dungeon 1 now. Let's go up, let's go up, let's go up, let's go. Alright, so this is Azrael. She is the Knight of Death. She is always a one-phase fight. She's relatively easy, although me being the absolute unit that I am, I'm always damage boosting through this fight because my spacing I've never really cared to master. This has been not my greatest showing in this fight. No one's watching this. Oh wait, there's another hit. Yeah, no one's seeing what is happening on screen right now. Promise? Alright. Now she's gonna pick it up, throw it. That's sparing Azrael. What a time.
These Archangel boss names are... they are wonderful puns. They're really killing me.
This game is very, very filled with puns. Alright, D2. Let's... you know what? No, let's go up here. And then we'll try green wrap. There we go. Alright, here we go. We've got Archangel Santaquil, Giver of Unwanted Gifts. This is a fight that I usually like to see preferably in D4 because you can spare this man in the second phase literally as soon as the second phase starts. You hit him once with the lighter in phase 2 and the fight is over. You use the power of compassion as soon as phase 2 starts and it is over. I like it when he's the first phase 2 fight because that means Dungeon 4 lighter. Lighter is... I never really mentioned it earlier, but lighter is the item that we use to dash. As well as set ourselves on fire, because I'm very good at that. Alright, let's do D3 next. This I think is going to be Krabatin, and I think this layout is going to be legs, which means that the boss should be over this way. Yes. Let's go up one. Let's go over and up one. There we go. There we go. Archangel Krabatin Doomsday Crab. So, his phase 2, fortunately we don't have to deal with. He turns into a giant glitchy-looking skull with two smaller skulls orbiting around him. When he does this attack in his phase 2, his hitbox becomes the size of a continent. He will just fake you out left and right, make you miss the arrows. It's a very stressful second phase, so I am very, very pleased with not having to deal with that right now. Now, we need to go to Dungeon 4. Hope that the old revolver is there. And if it's not, I'm gonna be really sad, because that means we gotta go sifting through the woods. Who is going to be here? This is gonna be, I think, Hydranial. If I'm remembering correctly. I think Tentaluchus was in Dungeon 7, which is, actually, this is lining up really, really nicely, because this means that, wait, oh, no, this is Diamond, I think. Yes, it is. Alright. we're going to fight the boss. Yes, this is Archangel Hydranial, Rock Noggin. He's going to say that he's not a fan of this because the puns never stop, and he's not a fan of the fact that like Lenna looks like Lenna, but also she's human, and I think he just misses his mom. So because this is a two-phase fight, we're going to pick him up, throw him in the hole. He's going to turn into that and generate a bunch of orbiting skulls. He's going to throw the skulls at the ground, and then he's going to shoot jets of lava out of the floor. After the first set of lava jets, then he will be spareable. There we go. That is a fight that, if I'm going for, like, PBs and whatnot, I usually reset over seeing a one-phase iteration of, because his second phase is so short, and it's so, in my opinion, not worth it for a one-phase fight. But you might notice that I had bombs equipped, and I dropped a bomb. Oh no. I dropped a bomb at the start of the fight, picked it up, threw it at him. The reason why I did that is because in order to sort of get him to start throwing chunks of his stony body at you, that you then pick up and throw back at him, the reason, or rather, back up, the game only looks for if you threw an item that you picked up. So, if you equip a bomb and then drop it, that counts. This might be it. Yeah. I don't know exactly how Forest Moon works. It's also been so long since I've actually had to do anything with a Forest Dungeon. There we go. There we go! That's the old revolver. That is the thing that we need. So now I'm going to flip back to bombs. And we are coming up to what is probably my favorite boss fight in the game. Archangel Tentaluchus Subterranean Squid. So I am going to do a little trick here, where I am going to try to line up the very center of Lenna's sprite with the center of Tentaluchus. I think I got it. Because of this move right here. So usually what happens is, with that move, he'll bounce around the room like one of those old DVD loading screens, for like 15 seconds. However, if you're in the dead center of the room, like 95% of the time, he'll just skip that, which is very, very handy. Also, this is the fight that I was talking about earlier, being like dramatically faster if you have the glasses equipped the whole time. So, now this is actually one of the scarier second phases. He turns into a UFO and shoots orbs of energy at you, and they have homing, and they can snipe you with some janky angles, and it's kind of scary. But this should be the last of the dungeon bosses, so while I wrap this fight up, if there are any final messages from the host, now is probably the best time.
This boss is very be not afraid.
It really is.
But yeah, this is our last chance to decide what Ada's outfit is going to be for the next run. The regular dress is still in the lead. You can change that very easily with just like $10. Or I guess a little more than $10.
Alright, we have re-entered Gender Palace. I've re-equipped my Strength Tunic, and I've also re-equipped the Axe, because those two skeletons, Edgar and Alan, they are kind of difficult to deal with. If you don't, I am going to do the autosave, just in case something weird happens and the game crashes. The game has only ever, for me, crashed, I think, once in a grand total of, like, now over 200 hours of playing the game. So this is Chairman Mammon / Chairman Gammon. He's a capitalist pig. He's too big to fail. He's going to get absolutely destroyed. So when he turns red like that, he is about to summon his herds of cash cows. But if we jump at him, he will punch, and that will just completely skip that move. It's been so long since I've had to deal with that move that I don't actually remember how long it is, but I think it's like 20 seconds or something like that. Then we play Rich Man's Volley, kick his ass, whack him with the sword, rinse and repeat. This is the first of 3 final bosses that we are going to be fighting. I say fighting with quotation marks because the next one we're going to just be popping the old revolver. I do need to be a little bit, sort of conscious of what I'm doing with the Rich Man's Volley sword spam, because this is actually, the one instance of a boss being a little bit scary for me, because every once in a while, the, nerve in my finger won't work, and my finger will lock up, and it'll make mashing borderline impossible for, a cycle, and then I have to rinse and repeat one extra time, and it sucks. So now, bro's gonna just hate fridge his way into the room, turn into an Archangel Delvin, Egomaniac. Yeah, he's trying to destroy the world. Fight's over. Don't try to destroy the world. Life lessons with Archangel Delvin. Alright, now we are going to try to blow the dust out of the cartridge. Azurflail and Tentaluchus are like, don't do that, we can fight fate. Lenna punches the cartridge, opens up the debug menu, Azurflail's like, maybe there's something we can use here. We go to level 9, the school. This is Lenna's bedroom. You can access this from the first screen of the game. I want to real quick take a moment to say, the fridge there, before it's her scythe, because she wields a scythe as her sort of signature weapon in her Archangel form. Yeah, the fridge is not supposed to be there. Here we go, final boss time, 8 fridge. This is my favorite fight in the game. Best music in the game, don't at me. This fight is just so cool. Very glitchy looking nonsense, everything is intended. Also, you may have remembered Lance the Hero Kid as well as Jesse the Elder. They were both dead at the beginning of the run. Let's try to fix that. I say try to because sometimes Lance just decides that Power of Compassion is not going to work on him. Alright, saved the Elder. Unequip all items that deal damage to destroy the corrupted copies of Lenna. Now we fight Lance. Thank you for behaving, my boy. Now we equip bombs, because now we are going to be attacked by the UI. The UI is going to summon the walls of the room as a sort of circle around it and throw it at us. For a while, we thought that we just had to dodge and this part was an auto-scroller, but it turns out if you throw bombs over and over at the item UI, which make up the UI monster's eyes, that drastically speeds things up. Now Lenna's going to get hit by a fridge. Time is coming up when I pull the pizza out of the fridge. And... time.
Jeez. That was wild.
I will gladly take a 5311, given how sketchy revolver backtracking was. And also, everyone's happy. The Elder's alive. Lance is alive. Tentaluchus has his pizza. Henrietta the chicken from way back is happy that the Elder's saved. The Prince and Lance are lovable Yowie. Lenna and Paige are lovable Yuri. Everyone's happy. This game is absolute peak. Real quick, want to give some shout-outs. Huge shout-outs to Bitten Studio for not only creating this absolutely fantastic game, but also creating another game, Cassette Beasts. I have put literally a couple hundred hours into both. They are so good. I could not recommend both of them enough. Shout-outs to the Lenna's Inception speedrunning community, my big sis who got me into the game, and also speedrunning as a whole. Versal, who has really been pushing some very strong times as of late, Darth Blaggle, just everyone in the community. Shout outs to some of my really, really good friends, Amity Moonlight, Virtual Cat, Flame Dragon, and so many others. Shout outs to all my good friends from Fast Pace Events. Love you guys. You're awesome. Thank you for giving me so many opportunities to do really cool stuff. And shout outs, of course, to the Trans Speedrun Collective for having me on, letting me show off legitimately one of my absolute favorite games of all time. A game that just means so much to me, and this run felt so good. One other little shout out. I will be actually back on this channel tomorrow at, I believe the scheduled time is 1:52 p.m. Eastern, running Super Monkey Ball Banana Rumble World Tour Super Speed No Spin Dash as Amy Rose. I'm super hyped for that run. It's going to be pure chaos. I hope that 8-6 is nice to me. But yeah, shameless plug, you can find me on Twitch, YouTube, and Blue Sky at Maple Snow Girl. I love to stream indie games with speedrunning. I love to stream Pokemon Shiny Hunts. Sonic Rumble has been a big game of mine that I've been playing a lot recently. Yeah, again, huge shoutouts to Trans Speedrun Collective for putting on such an incredible event and for having me on to showcase a game that means so much.
Excellent. That Banana Rumble run tomorrow